Hey y'all, it's another phenomenal episode of Given Name. We have a special guest today, and I'm going to read her bio. A Black mother scholar who prioritizes scholarship in service of her community. A veteran educator with 16 years of K through 12 experience. Her research and teaching focus on Black educational studies, Black critical race theory, Black feminist thought, intersectionality, and the sociology of race and education. She is the co founder of the nonprofit Making Us Matter and the co founding editor of the Black Educology Mixtape Journal. Her scholarship investigates the complex intersections of race, gender, and identity while appearing in peer reviewed journals such as Harvard Educational Review, Race, Ethnicity, and Education, and Educational Studies. Her work continues to explore interdisciplinary themes deeply informed by and engaging with Black intellectual traditions, as seen in her forthcoming book, Articulations, a radical methodology for Black pedagogy, redefining education through Black women's hair experiences. Whoa. So, without any further ado, I will have our guest introduce her name.
Thank you for that. My name is Dr. Eghosa Obaizamomwan-Hamilton, and I'm really happy to be here with you.
What an impressive bio.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you're very cool. I love a sociologist. So the fact that you're like sociology and race and identity and going for it, I love that. Okay,
Yes.
there are some demographic questions I'm going to ask you. Cool? Could you
Cool.
spell your first name?
Eghosa.
What is your age and or generation?
Millennial 41.
Okay. Come on, millennials. Race.
Black Nigerian
Okay. Gender.
woman,
Hometown.
Sacramento.
Parents' hometowns.
Benin, Nigeria.
Both of them?
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. That's on my list of places to visit.
Oh,
Current town
nice.
that you're in.
Oakland.
Oakland, stand up. All right. Your
Yes.
highest level of education, doctor.
I have my doctorate.
Surprise. And on a scale of religious, spiritual, atheist, where do you see yourself falling?
Spiritual.
Spiritual. Perfect. Okay. I am going to ask a random question just because they're fun. So,
Love it.
yes. Okay. You wake up at 1 p.m. Do you want breakfast food or dinner food?
1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going dinner, lunchish food.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people say breakfast, and I'm like, that's past. No, it's done.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
lunch lover, so I love lunch food. Okay, so now
Yes,
for the big
definitely.
question. Tell me about your name.
Mm. My first name is Eghosa, and it means God's time is the best. The pronunciation when my Nigerian family says it is a little bit different. Eghosa is kind of the easiest way to explain, but a lot of folks pronounce it Ewosa, and I take a lot of pride in my name and my parents giving me that name. And Obaizamomwan, which is my maiden name, is also Nigerian, and it has meanings around like kings and royalty. And so I'm just really happy to have a name that has significance, even though obviously growing up there were challenges as with mispronunciations, people making fun of my name, all of that jazz. But I'm very proud to have this name.
Awesome. Can you tell me who named you or who decided this is the name?
Yeah, my parents named me, and I think I have a memory of my mom, had a baby book, and there were like different names, that they were thinking about. But then they decided on this one, and because of the meaning, God's time is the best. I'm assuming it has something to do with them getting pregnant with me, about 2 years after they immigrated to this country.
Are you the oldest?
I am the oldest. Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, high achieving oldest. Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
So they said that this was like unique in what it meant. Is there any other reverence? Like, is it a spiritual name? Does somebody have it before you? Or was it just that baby book and the meaning?
I think it's the meaning is because they're both Nigerian and it's a Benin name. So there are multiple Nigerian, tribes. Like, for example, although I'm Benin, my daughter has a name that's Nigerian, but it's from the Yoruba tribe, which is different from my family's. And that was because that's a name that my husband liked. And there's also a musician that he likes that has the same name.
Mhm.
But my family, it's specifically a Benin name, as well as my younger brother and younger sister. And then both my parents also have Benin names, with my mom's name being Eghosa, which is Efosa. So a little different, but similar to mine. And then my dad's name was Osasuyi, and my younger brother's name is Osasuen. So they're all kind of related. And then my sister has, I think, the name that strays the most from those, which is Adesua. But they're all Benin, and we are very proud of those names.
How can you tell that they're Benin?
Um, well, this is just something I know because that's what I've learned. But I Nigerian names in general, it's like I have to look up where they're from specifically. So there's Yoruba names, there's Igbo names, there's Benin names. But I know like there are some things similar with Benin names, like the Osa, which often has some connection to God. That's kind of something you'll see in a lot of different Benin names. And then there's names like my sister's Adesua. So it's like part of it is the meaning, spelling, and then where it's from.
Awesome. Okay. I think it's cool that you just like you can tell by the syllables, like by the fragments. Because Osa meaning God, I didn't know that, but sign me up. That
Mhm.
sounds great. Uh, do you have any other like outstanding family, like outside of your nuclear family? What about your aunts and uncles? Do they also have similar names and or a name that's reflective of yours?
A lot of my family is still in Nigeria, like my blood family. And I do have some aunts and uncles out here, and everyone has like Nigerian names, and a lot of them have kids who have Nigerian names. Like I have a cousin who has the same name as me,
Hmm.
but he's male because it's a unisex name.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we have a lot of our cousins have Nigerian Benin specific names. And then for some folks, they also give their children like American names. We had American names that we just never used, but I think mine was like Jennifer. My sister's middle name is Kathy. And those were like the American names that if we needed to, could use, because I think our parents knew obviously the discrimination or the stereotypes that come with having a name like that. So sometimes you'll have, in both the Nigerian community, but also like as a teacher, I had a lot of students from the AAPI community who definitely almost always used like the American version for their name. So while I understand it, I'm really happy that none of us actually ever went and used it at school or anywhere. Although there were times when I wanted to, because like, man, like kids are mean, you know?
Yeah. What it takes to be a Jennifer, because just switch it over. That's crazy. Um,
Right.
how did they get Jennifer? Do you just pick a name?
I think they just picked a name. Like my mom and dad, they're American names, which is what they went by. So when they went to work, this is how people addressed them, with Joseph and Josephine. They picked those names. So that's what they
Oh,
went by, and that's how people knew them, but those were not their Nigerian names. So I think they just picked, yeah, names that seem very typical and easy. And yeah, and I think my younger brother, picked Kathy. Like when they were trying to think of what is a good American name, I think he had picked Kathy. Mhm.
that's really interesting. So tell me, how did you feel about your name growing up?
Yeah, I think before, I don't know, most of like elementary, middle, high school, I was like, You know, like people butcher the name. I also played sports, so people are announcing my name all the time
Wow.
and butchering it.
Yeah.
Um, and then kids are making fun of it, you know, calling me like, you know, Eghosa or, you know, Eggo waffles or just ridiculous stuff. Teachers mispronouncing it. It was just hard. And even my last name, Obaizamomwan, I most of my school, it was not till like probably I got to grad school where I did the whole name. I would just go by Obaiza, Obaiza, half of it, because it was easier. But as I came into learning more about myself, I just like, yeah, I take pride in these names and I want figure it out. Like there's a author, or maybe the actress in Orange is the New Black. I forget her name, but she talked about in America, the US specifically, people, yeah, they could pronounce, you know, Vygotsky and
Yes.
Schreiber and all this
What
stuff.
was
They didn't
that?
even learn how to pronounce our names.
Exactly. Oppenheimer, whatever his
Yeah.
name, like that doesn't just roll off that you have to think about that. I had a conversation with somebody from Canada
Hmm.
yesterday, and
Hmm.
she was like, I'm generally asking, like, why do Black people give their children these names? Like they're hard to pronounce. And I was like,
Yikes.
honestly, I mean, I had multiple answers for her, but the one that
Mhm.
really stuck with me is like, we go around practicing or accepting these languages that are not Black. But when you go to Africa, all of a sudden it's something different that you're not exposed to. So these are syllables and consonants that are like in Africa, we don't have a problem saying this. It's just that the world has kind of like ostracized Africa as second rate or other. And so you don't go into those communities, you don't look up their languages, you don't look up anything. And so when we're saying these names, you're just saying that they're hard and quitting, but you figured out how to say German names. Those are, like those clusters are kind of they're hard to get through. But it was really,
Exactly.
yeah, it struck me. Sorry to jump in like that, but
No, no, yeah. It's like in this country there's such a centralization of self and
Mhm.
whatever this culture is that it's hard for them to conceptualize anything outside of that when really like that should be the norm, particularly in the United States that has such an influx of multiple different types of names and people from everywhere. But it's like, yeah, like thinking about it, like why do you give your child such weird names? That means that you believe that you and your people are the norm and everything else is an aberration, when really if you go anywhere else, having the name Becky is strange. You know, it
Mhm.
might be something different. It might be easy to pronounce here, but it might be weird somewhere else. John, James, Chad,
Yeah.
Brad, with no meaning attached to it, like that might be strange elsewhere. So it's really just kind of a very ethnocentric way of thinking about the world.
Excellent way to summarize that up. I love that you're also a sociologist. So yes, this is fun. So how do you feel about your name now? Like as a full adult, do you have them write out your whole name like you had started in graduate school? What's changed from you growing up?
Yeah, from growing up, from like, ooh, when I get to high school or when I get to college, I'm gonna use my American name. When I was in college, people started calling me E, which was like, oh, I like it, especially on the basketball court, like very quick, like,
Very
hey,
quick.
E, you know,
Mhm.
like so it made sense. And so I kind of like that as a nickname. But it wasn't like I chose that nickname. I wasn't like, hey, I want everybody to call me E. I was always assigned a nickname because it was easy for everyone else. So I just wish I had more like wherewithal for at least figure out how to say my name before you assign me a nickname and let me pick the nickname that I want y'all to use. Um, so when I started teaching, it was kind of like the same thing. I worked with a white woman as my like cooperating teacher, and she couldn't pronounce my name, so she just told the kids, "Hey, this is Miss E," just like that. Didn't ask, just boom, and which is okay, right? Like I like the nickname, I just don't like how it's kind of happened over time.
Yeah.
But I was known as Miss E on campus, and I stuck with it, and that's fine. Like I don't think I'd ever want anybody to call me like my full like last name, Miss Obaizamomwan. Like I get it, but the way that it happened is like wow. Um, but like at some point, I really wanted to like take pride in my name and really unlearn some of the things that I've learned. And even through teaching, there were certain books that we were reading where it called for us to think about our name,
Mhm.
specifically The Poet X by Elizabeth S. Vado. We were reading that, and there is something that I found online. It was called Unlearning My Name. It was like a poetry, visual poetry that we watched as a class, and it was someone called his name was Muhammad, and he was talking about how people were pronouncing it versus the way that it actually should sound, like when it comes from his family. And I thought that was really powerful. And he talked about unlearning his name, unlearning the way that he had learned to pronounce it because of everybody else. And that really, I don't know, it stuck with me. And so when I got into grad school in 2020, I wanted to make sure that my full name was there. My middle name is my maiden name now, but for my academic life, it's hyphenated because I want to keep that part of me and make sure people know when they cite me, they're not just citing Hamilton, which is my married name. They're citing this Nigerian name with this history, this ancestry that represents my family. And I want to make sure people know my name before they start shortening it. But I sometimes I think it's still hard. Even at Stanford, somebody started calling me Dr. E. Fine, and I want to make sure you know how to say my name and you pronounce it correctly. So I think at this point, that's something that I do. Everyone knows how to say my name, Eghosa, first and foremost, and then we can kind of go from there.
Awesome. I am gonna look up that video because that sounds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing. You said that your family says your name differently. Your Nigerian family says your name differently, but then when you come here, you have to answer to Eghosa because they're
It's
not.
just, yeah, that's why the unlearning my name was so, it was like, damn, my whole life I've been basically going by this Eghosa, which is like phonetically, I guess, easier for people to kind of like figure out
Mhm.
versus like telling them that technically like the G's kind of silent and the HO sounds like this together,
Yeah.
and also because I grew up saying it this way, I have some like insecurity about my own pronunciation because I don't have a Nigerian accent and I didn't grow up saying it the way that I hear people call me. So there's that combination, right, at this age that I'm still kind of like working through when it comes to my name.
What great identity work. That was wonderful. So you said that people give you nicknames. Is there any nickname that you've given yourself, even outside of your name?
Mm, no, not really. I've always gone with E, I think the only shift in naming is becoming a mother and having someone call me mom. But other than that, I've always kind of gone with E. And if I were to give myself a nickname, I, I think E is something I would do. I just like to choose to do so.
Mm, okay. Did your parents have a nickname for you, or what do they call you like around the house?
Yeah, my full name.
Your
Mm-hmm.
full name.
Yeah.
What happens when you were in trouble?
Still full name. Never like full name like Eghosa Obaizamomwan-Hamilton. Like never that. It was like just my name, my first name. That's it. Nigerian household, like you don't need much to know, like you need
Yeah.
to lock in.
Yeah, it's that tone. You immediately
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you have a given middle name?
I thought when they told me my American name was Jennifer, I thought that's what it was legally. But then when I looked at my birth certificate, it wasn't on there. I think they just gave that to me. Whereas like my younger sister, it's on her birth certificate. Same with my brother. I think, I forget I think he tried to pick his middle name or something when he was older, but then found out his middle name is actually like Nigerian, I think. So it's very interesting because like we grew up, all of us thinking that we had these American names, but they were never like legal except for my youngest sister. But I don't have a middle name. It's Eghosa Obaizamomwan. My first name, my mom told me one time when I was very young, I have this memory that she said, actually, your full name is Eghosa Sere, which I was like, what? I didn't know that, never heard of that. And I don't think I've probed. My mom is no longer here, but it's a conversation I would love to learn more about from either of my parents. Like, why did y'all shorten it? Why did you put it on my birth certificate if it was that full name? What does it mean? Is it a different meaning? Like all that stuff. So just, different things I discovered kind of growing up.
That's cool. I was gonna say something and I just lost it. It'll come back. Okay.
Okay.
So, have you ever met someone with your name?
Not outside of my cousin. So I have a cousin that has my same name, but not outside of that. Now I definitely know that there are people with my name. There are other scholars that have my first name.
Mhm.
But I've never actually met anybody.
Okay. Is there any like spelling variation of your name that you've seen?
Not that I've seen. This is the way that I usually see it spelled. Hmm.
Okay. That's the way that it's said.
Hmm.
Um, you talked about your nicknames changing over time because people just kind of named you. Could you share some of the pronunciations that they got to before E? Like, how did they say your name before they were like E? Just E, Dr. E.
Um, like the one I remember like in college was like Eghosa, and I really hated that. Like
Yeah.
it just sounded so ugly. And it's like that's not how you say it. You're pronouncing every syllable and it's not even right. Like that's one I remember not liking. And that's that. Like in middle school and stuff, they were saying ridiculous stuff,
Mhm.
like Eggo waffles and all that nonsense.
Yeah, that doesn't
Um,
stick. Yeah.
yeah. And one of my friends calls me ego, which was like I think that came up through basketball. I don't mind that. And then my teammates, because I don't know, I actually don't remember like how this came about, but they would used to call me Peaches. Like they were like, we're just gonna come up with a different name in general. And so they would call me Peaches. And yeah, wasn't a fan of the name. Um, I don't remember why they chose that name. I just remember for a while my nickname was Peaches.
Do you like
Um,
peaches?
no,
Okay.
not even that.
That's
I have no idea where it came from. But yep,
peaches.
Peaches. Yeah, it felt like like I don't know. It was college and basketball team. We be doing the most.
Yes. I think ego is a cool name.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
cool.
cool. My best friend calls me that. She's probably the only one that calls me that still. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, remind me again what your name means.
God's time is the best.
Do you feel like that's an accurate depiction for you? Does your name resemble some of your experiences, like your life?
That's interesting. But that's an interesting question. Timing, I think, has been interesting in my life. Yeah, wow, timing. I think, you know, for me and timing, sometimes it's connected to grief. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, I think one of the first thing that comes by when I think about timing, I think about losing my mom a month after I graduated college and
mm,
how devastating that was. But also with timing, I remember when she was first diagnosed that she said she wanted to see me and my brother graduate. I was graduating college, he'd be graduating high school, and she did. So like that was like surreal to me, that she made it. And I'm gonna stop talking about that because I don't want to get too emotional, but like that timing I think is so interesting. Um, Timing connected to grief and gain as well. When I think about, I gave birth to my daughter, and then I also lost my dad shortly after. And so timing, beautiful, but also tragic, right? So I've never really thought about this question, but when I think about timing, it is kind of this juxtaposition for me in some big parts of my life of like something really cool or a beautiful accomplishment or something as amazing and a blessing like giving birth to my kid, but also tied to these great losses. And then I think timing wise, like in my life. Like, for example, I applied to grad school very shortly after I finished my master's, probably like, I don't know, 2014. And I didn't get in. I had applied to Berkeley and I didn't get in. And it was in sociology, PhD, because my undergrad is in sociology. And I didn't get in. I was like, damn, that sucks. So I guess I would keep it pushing, you know? And I didn't really think about going to grad school again. And then I went to a coworker's child's first birthday, and he's married to a Nigerian woman, and her mother at the very end of this party, as I'm leaving, we were talking, and she was like asking me about school, and I was like, oh yeah, I applied, but I didn't get in, so I haven't applied ever since. She was like, well, you should apply. You should go again. Like, she asked me if I had any kids, and I said not yet. She's like, your future kid would be so proud of you. Like, for whatever reason, like, I don't usually go to coworkers events because that wasn't my thing. But I went to that event and then stayed late enough to have an interaction with his wife's mother. And then for us to randomly get on this topic before I even have a kid, to me, that timing was quite divine. And I kid you not, I applied pretty shortly after that conversation. Like, I started prepping myself to apply. And I applied to 2 schools in the Bay Area. And then I got in and started January 2020. Timing wise, me starting the program at that time at the University of San Francisco was the most elite timing that it could have been for me in my life. One, because of some of the friends that I've made in grad school and the work that we've done creating Make It As Matter was with my friend from USF, Gertrude, Black Ecology. I still work with Dre Carter. We met at USF as well. Like, that COVID obviously happened. So I'm doing a lot of schooling from home, which wasn't ideal. But 2 years into my grad program, I found out I was pregnant. I also had a challenging terrain towards getting pregnant. So not having to go to campus and being able to work from home, not having to teach my full-time job, but work from home was a blessing during that time from 2020 to 2022 because I was going through it. So that was a blessing timing wise. And then I think having my daughter 2022, graduating 2024, the jobs that opened up during that time, timing was really aligned. I got a job locally close to my house, and then something happened. And then this other job kind of opened up randomly. I would say that's timing, right? Because what is the likelihood that a job that is at a school like that I could actually commute to would open up after this tragic event of me kind of losing this job offer because that school was being bought out by another institution. So I think timing has been interesting. I've never had this question. So as I'm talking to you live and thinking about all this stuff, I'm like, wow, like, yeah, timing. And right now, Black History Month, I have my first book, dropping during Black History Month, pre-orders and all that stuff. So yeah, I love that question. I kind of went on a rant, but those are all the things that came up for me.
I love the rant. Yeah, I had a great time listening. That was cool. Also your book, I can't wait to talk more about it. But also it's the fact that you are wearing what are these called? Like your stand-up chairs? It's that you're wearing them during Black History Month. Yes.
Yes.
It's so appropriate.
Yes.
Every time I look at them, I'm like, pride. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
How do you feel, like on a personal level, when your name is either mispronounced, misspelled, or not attempted? Like if they just go, okay, Emily, how does that sit with you?
When I first started my new job, there was someone who I was like, okay, everybody's pronouncing my name. I put how to pronounce my name in my email link, and most people were getting it right. They might ask, they clarify. Some people listen to the link, which I think is really helpful. I'm glad I have that in my email bio. But there was one person where sometimes they would pronounce it properly, and then sometimes they wouldn't. And I would just like be so confused. And then I'd be like, okay, you're hearing other people pronounce it away. You're going to get it, right? And they did it. And in my head, it's a new place. I don't know these people. It's a, high research. It's like, Stanford has its name, right? I'm like, I don't know, like what's going on. So the first, I would say week or two, I'm like, waiting for them to like get it. And then finally, I just directly had a conversation with them, like, this is how you pronounce my name. And for me, it was interesting because it's like, I knew I was like, it was like, that's not how you say, that's not how you say it. And I was like thinking about all the things about how do I go about telling them. And I was hoping that they would figure it out as they hear everyone else pronounce it correctly. So for me at my big age, still like trying to think about how do I approach this other adult within the space as a newbie to the space, as a newbie to the team, with something that I know I need, which is my name pronounced right. It was interesting. But once I shared with them, you know, they were able to correct it, and that was that. But that was I don't know. I think I was surprised by my own like hesitancy or hope that they would figure it out. So yeah.
Thank you. That was good. I think I've always been the one to like tell them that's not it. Like because I mean it's Shanae, guys. We all know these syllables.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't answer to anything else, but have you ever answered to a different version?
I mean, when people mispronounce it, I know they're talking about me. And so, or, you know, that thing where they're like, they pause for hella long. You're like, okay, like that's
Yeah.
me, you know? So I do and have done that. And yeah.
What about your last name? Because this looks complicated, and I'm sure that people don't take the care to say it or spell it correctly.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I didn't start using Obaizamomwan until grad school. So before it was just Obaiza. And
Mhm.
then once I got into grad school, I changed it at work as well. I was like, no, y'all finna, this is you finna see all of it. And I'm really proud of myself for doing that. And I think people see it, and just like they like don't even attempt. Or sometimes like if I get introduced at an event, they will go for it, but it's not right. And they'll either ask me to correct it in real time, or it's just they say it and I'm like, you know, good try. So I think, but it's not going to change. It's going to stay the way it is, and people are going to have to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So do you see your name as creative?
For me, I think Black people in general are creative people. So
Mhm.
I think you'll see that in a lot of names. And then on top of that, having a name that has ancestry in Nigeria. I think for me, speaking specifically to my origin as a Nigerian, the names have significance. They mean something. There are names that have really important significance, and people sometimes name their children for the definition, right? When we were looking up names, there was a Yoruba name that I didn't like how it was pronounced. It was Abeni, Abeni. I don't really like the pronunciation. It's not a name I really like, but I was like, I have to have this name because the definition was we asked for her and she arrived. And because of our journey to having our first child, I just felt called to that name. So it's part of her name, right? It's like her second middle name, because her middle name is my mother's namesake, Eghosa. And I can't wait to talk to her more about that and that name and the meaning. And we talked about having that as her first name, but you know, I wanted it to be, I wanted her to have a name that she can impose all the meanings, right? I think carrying the name of my mother could mean multiple things for her as she gets older and understands more. So having it as the middle name and being able to expose her to that, I think, and explain and share stories of my mom, I'm really excited about. But Abeni, I ain't gonna lie, I'm not like a fan of the name at all, but I needed that meaning in her name so that I could tell her exactly that. And so I think that was interesting as me and my husband were kind of thinking about all the things with regard to her name, and even trying to decide. When we gave birth to her, we still hadn't picked a name. They were like, "What's her name?" We don't know. We're still kind of arguing back and forth about it. And we went with Fola Sade because it was a name that my husband liked the most, and it was a name that I was cool with, and the meaning was like, you know, crown and glory. It was cool enough for me, and I liked the idea of calling her Fola as a short. he wanted to call her Sade, but I was like, that's too easy, too American. We need, a little more. But yeah, that's all the stuff.
I was going to ask you if your daughter had an American name, but I
Nowhere in
guess
there except for her last name, Hamilton, which is my husband's last name.
she could be Sade.
She could be, but the reason I was anti that as a short is just it's too typical, too regular. I want her to like
Stand out.
stand out and then have Fola and explain, because if she goes by Sade, people might not even know that she's Nigerian, right?
Mhm.
So by having it be Fola Sade, those are cool. And ultimately she will decide, but I'm hoping, we've been calling her Fola her whole life, and she knows her full name is Fola Sade. And I'm just hoping that she'll continue to take pride in that. She just learned how to spell it recently. So really, really happy for it.
Yay for spelling. Okay, I have just one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a two-parter. What precedes you as your name is spoken? So, like, ideally, I'm looking at your name. What do I know about you off bat first?
That I'm Nigerian. I think that's
Yeah.
first and foremost.
Yeah.
Because I'm Nigerian, I think that comes with a lot of history and cultural awareness. In part, having a Nigerian name, that I probably come from Nigerian people. Not all the time, right? There are some people who have Nigerian names and they're not Nigerian, but for me, and I think that gives you like a snapshot into my upbringing, the types of foods that I was exposed to, the cultural clothing, some of the like cultural expectations. You said high achieving firstborn, true. And by being Nigerian, I think people also correlate the two. Like
Yeah.
Nigerians and being high achieving are also very connected. And so I think it gives you that. It gives you a little bit of a backdrop of my historical ancestral background.
Awesome. What do you want it to say? If somebody is looking at your name on a sheet of paper, what do they expect to come into the room that you know you embody?
What I wanted to say is when I walk into a room, I'm bringing with me my mother, my daughter, my family, my history. I'm bringing with me a representation of not only being Nigerian, but here in the United States, people see me before they see my name, they're going to see a Black person. So I take pride in that as well. I want to make sure that I'm speaking to and representing the experiences of Black women, but also making sure I'm representing what it means to be Nigerian and come from that background. And I want my name to represent depth. My name has meaning, and I value that meaning. And I'm bringing more than just my, my bio. I'm bringing more than just my stat sheet. I'm bringing like everything, with me. And I take great pride in representing more than what meets the eye.
That was great. I say that every time, but yes, I'm sitting here in the background like, I know that was the last question, but can you talk about the duality of being Black and being Nigerian in America? Because you said like there's different expectations. So can you talk more about that?
Yeah, it's more so I grew up in a household where we wake up and we had to say good morning in our language. I haven't used it in such a long time, but we'd have to say good morning in our language. We have to say, we had a lot of Nigerian food. I grew up with my mom making, pounded yam, jollof rice, fried plantains, agusi soup. And, some of those things I've been able to keep. Like I can make some of those things, and some of them I can't, right? Because I didn't have as much time as I would have liked. Like I would have loved to be with my mom in my 20s and 30s and kind of pick up even more. But I think like for me growing up in that type of household and having a lot of Nigerian family and then going to school, and then, I'm either Black and I'm being treated as such, no one recognizing that I'm Nigerian, and that comes with different experiences. So I remember the first time being called the N word in elementary school. I remember also my teacher wanted to put me in like remedial classes because my parents had heavy accents, and I think they assumed that maybe I needed extra when I didn't, and my mom fighting for that not to be the case. I think the difference that I was trying to articulate is really in my experience. It's like coming in a Nigerian household, like there are things that I didn't have like social understandings of. Like I didn't know what camping was, like I remember seeing it on the test. I had no idea what camping was because that's not something we did as a family. And then I go to school and there's an expectation that I should know these things, or even some of the like more popular cultural things that I should know. American cultural or Black cultural weren't as accessible to me when I was younger because, I knew we had some Nigerian Nollywood movies, my mom loved Sound of Music. So I remember watching that. But it was different. And so for me, sometimes I talk about this experience just because it's a little disorienting to like experience the world as a Black girl, a Black woman, but experience home as a Nigerian girl, Nigerian woman, and all the things that come with that. So sometimes I thought that was really challenging. And now I feel like I have a really good merger of the two. I carry both with me. So you ask me like my race, I'm Black, but also Nigerian. And I think they both need to go together because that's how I've experienced life.
Thank you for that. That wasn't on the sheet, but I needed that.
I love
Okay,
it.
those are the questions that I have for you. Is there something else that you want to address that we haven't already?
I think maybe the only thing I would say, like name and identity and politics are all kind of intertwined. And so we know that having names like ours may be preventative or weaponized in different aspects, right? We know all the tests that show the same application, but two different names with one sounding more ethnic versus the other and what happens there. So we do know that with having names like ours, there are some political moves that are made to try to make things more challenging. And I think that sometimes can influence parents to create ease for their children by giving them other names. But I just want to say and stand like as a message that we should still name our children accordingly, right? And not try to create names that make their lives move through the system. The system needs to adjust, and that system needs to adjust to all the beauty and the array and the diversity and the meanings and the depth and the history that are embedded in our names.
Yes, I saw something on Threads, and it was someone ranting like, "Stop giving your children these names. They're hard to pronounce. They stop them from getting employment." And someone commented, "We're not raising employees. Like this is one facet of their life, but their identity is tied to their name, and that's important. Like
Yes.
you want them to forsake their identity and assimilate or do whatever just so that you can say their name from an email or in a conference room?
Yes.
Girl, that's
Yes.
silly." Yeah. So
That's yes.
okay.
Accurate.
Yes. Do you have anything you would like to share with the audience or tell them where to find you?
Yeah, you said Threads. I love Threads. I've just started doing Threads like, I don't know, a month ago or plus in terms of like actively being on it. It reminds me of old Twitter. So I'm really liking Threads, but I am on all the socials. Threads is my name that's listed here, which is also Instagram. And then I have Blue Sky and what's the other one? I do still have Twitter. Don't really be on it very much. And then I'm on LinkedIn. And I've shared, as I said, I have a book that's on pre-order now and drops March 3rd. And I'm really proud of that as my first work, my first book. And I'm trying to really take pride in having it timing wise dropped during Black History Month. But that book, I really hope people pick up. That is really trying to talk about the intersections of another identity marker, which is Black hair, and how our hair and our textures impact the way that we are viewed, the way that we see the world, impact the way that we might teach, impact the way that we might interact in any job, or all the things, how much we work out, etc. And so I'm really excited about that work as I try to articulate the importance of bridging the gap with regard to intersectionality by incorporating hair specifically for Black women. And my focus is Black women educators in this book. And yeah, I really would love to be in conversation with people about this and have people thinking about their hair journeys and how their hair journeys have impacted their life, their perspective, outcomes. And yeah, really proud of the work. And if you go online, it's on Amazon, which is the preferred method, and also on Routledge. And there are reviews from people that I adore and people that I really respect. Dr. David Stovall, Dr. Heather Streets, Dr. Bettina Love, Dr. Yarabel Mercedes, and Dr. Dre Carter all have some really beautiful things to say introducing my book to the world. So really excited about that work. And yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that.
Of course. I